Unafraid, Reister or Wrong. Thank you guys for joining me today. I'm George Reister. We have a couple really good things on track for you guys today. But first of all, before you even do that, please like the feed, share the feed so we can continue the conversation and make it great every single day. Today, though, up for you guys, we have a couple really important topics. Number one, Mike Pence showing up at the Indianapolis Colts game. The ultimate PR stunt and propaganda move. Number two, Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback of all time, and it's not Tom Brady. Number three, the Dolphins coach Chris Foerester, because many of you guys have seen that video where he's snorting some type of white substance. One can only assume that it's drugs based upon, the commentary from the video. So guess what? The man has resigned today, and he's going away quietly. And I told people that he was going to go away quietly. Nobody believed me, but I'm going to tell you why he went away quietly. So first up is Mike Pence. And the other thing I'm going to tell you about today is why. If you are a Second Amendment person, if you're a person who is a defender of the Second Amendment saying, keep our guns, all that stuff, I'm going to tell you why you should be the number one person supporting NFL players taking a knee or anybody else taking a knee. You need to be the ultimate supporter, the champion for that cause. And that's along with the Mike Pence PR stunt. So Mike Pence, who's our vice president, he went to the Indianapolis Colts versus the San Francisco 49ers football game. And he walked out after the national anthem and cited, because players were disrespecting the national anthem. They're protesting the national anthem. First of all, they're not protesting the national anthem, as everybody knows. They're protesting something completely differently. But it's been made about that because it's propaganda. And he chose to go to the 49ers Colts game specifically because he knew, and President Trump knew, that they were playing against the 49ers and they have the most players kneeling. And I remember on Friday, I saw an article, right, that said that Vice President Pence was going to be on the West Coast and in LA over the weekend. Right. The reason why that was important to me is because when the vice president or president comes into town, then it affects traffic here in LA, like big time. So you need to watch where you go. Right. So he was in town for fundraising events. He would be on the West Coast. And so he was in Las Vegas on Saturday and then curiously showed up in Indianapolis on Sunday. And then last night I went to dinner with my parents. And we were down in the LA area. I'm driving home and I see all sorts of motorcycle cops at like 9:30 at night. And I'm like, why the heck would this be? And I was like, wait, hold up. Is Mike Pence here in town? It's like, oh my God, he is. So I Googled, Mike Pence is right here in LA. And then I'm thinking, hold up. This man actually had no intention on staying for the football game. He went there to Indianapolis specifically because the 49ers were playing. And he wanted to make sure that it was seen and that the agenda was pushed. Because you have to remember this, right? Is when I'm sitting there looking at it, I'm like, wow. They knew that there were games in LA. So the Rams played here. They played the Seattle Seahawks in LA. Mike Pence was in Las Vegas, was coming to LA. So instead of spending our taxpayer dollars just to come to LA like he originally intended, no, he flew back to Indianapolis to then fly back to LA. He had no intention on staying for the game. Because remember, he flies on Air Force Two. Air Force Two is not some magical plane that can fly from Indianapolis to LA in an hour and a half. Nope. To make his fundraiser. No way, Jose. It was done intentionally. And I saw it last night. He was leaving the fundraiser as I was leaving dinner. They're stopping traffic all over the place. And then I think about it and I'm like, okay, let's just break it down in terms of taxpayer stuff. right? I'm talking about Mike Pence's PR stunt yesterday and why it affects you, the Second Amendment person. People who want their guns, don't want the government to take away their guns. I'm going to get to that. We've already talked about Health Secretary Tom Price and his private jet for personal use. This was a waste of taxpayer money for propaganda purposes. Because remember, is that this was a message from President Trump, because he already called for people to walk out of stadiums, and nobody's been walking out of stadiums. Like, nobody has noticed an uptick in walking out of stadiums because players have been taking a knee. And so he did what so he asked for something, he didn't get it. So what did President Trump do? He did what any reasonable person who's attempting to be a dictator would do: force his way. So he sent Mike Pence to the game to press the agenda to say, you know what, we're going to walk out of stadiums. The vice president is walking out of stadiums. Yep. And that's why I say that some of these NFL owners are a joke, because they stood with the players because they were upset that Trump attacked the league, its owners, and the players. That's why they stood with the players. And now you have owners like Jerry Jones who said, oh, anybody who doesn't stand is going to be benched. And why that's important to the Second Amendment owners. You guys, please share this. If you don't share anything else, share this today now about why this is important to Second Amendment people. People who are gun owners. People who do not want regulations on guns. The reason why this is important to you is because you don't want people stepping on your amendment right to own a gun, right? You don't want the government controlling how you live your life. And you say that good people with guns, that it's not the guns that kill people, it's bad people with guns, focus on mental health, all these things, right? So if you don't want your rights stepped upon, right, you have to look at the First Amendment right. If kneeling, protesting, and all this, if this gets stepped upon, right, in the name of the quote unquote flag, where flag worship is being confused with patriotism, then guess what's coming next? Your Second Amendment rights, they're up for grabs next, buddy. Your guns are up next. So while kneeling and the protests might not be an issue that you support, it might not be something that you believe in, that you believe is real, or any of that. If you are going to be in favor of forcing somebody or costing them they're calling for their job, or any of that over protests, over freedom of speech, over the First Amendment, guess what? Your guns are coming next. Oh, no. The NRA won't allow that. Guess what? Yes, they will. Everybody folds under enough public pressure. You have enough public shootings, because you see the bump stocks are already going away soon. The bump stocks are going away. Those are the things that turn semi-automatic weapons into automatic weapons, and it messes up the gunfire. You can't aim at any of that. So your guns are going next. So this is why you shouldn't fall for this propaganda that that Vice President Pence and Donald Trump are trying to spin at us right now. Regardless of whether you're a Trump supporter or not, this is propaganda. And what is propaganda? Just so we can be clear, it is spread by the government and its entities to share the ideas, information, or rumors deliberately to influence opinions. Because this has been going on for a long time. I mean, think about it. We had propaganda in World War I with the war bonds and the victory gardens. And in World War II, you had the Writers' War Board. It's the greatest propaganda machine in history. Then there was propaganda during the Cold War with J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI, the Iraq War, all these things. So the government is used to using propaganda. And this is just another case. And you should care about it. You didn't think that you should care about it. But the reality is, yes, Donald Trump is in office. Some of you guys are concerned about, his immigration policy. Some of you guys are concerned about his whether he's going to really take guns away or anything or put some regulations on it. Yeah, buddy. If you are not in favor of players kneeling, players being allowed to kneel and keep their jobs, you're calling for them, you want to boycott them, you want to do all this, remember that, buddy. Your Second Amendment rights, they're up for grabs next, buddy. They are up for grabs next. I promise you that. And if you don't believe it, you, my friend, are mistaken. You are mistaken. Second thing up today, besides your Second Amendment rights being up for grabs and your First Amendment rights being up for grabs, is the number one spot is not up for grabs in terms of quarterbacks of all time. Tom Brady is not the GOAT. He's not the greatest of all time. Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback of all time. And if you are confused about that, I will explain to you why, my friend. When you look at these players' history, like I'm going to equate this to something else the way everybody can understand, it's like in the 1980s, right? If you're a person who's my age, 36 years old or older, and even if you're younger, the people that you've heard so much about, especially when you were a young kid, was Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Those are the people who were the icons of the game. These are the people that you watched, that you paid attention to, and that you saw with your own two eyeballs. I'm like, wow, Larry Legend is the greatest. And then Magic Johnson comes, you're like, no, Magic Johnson is the greatest player of all time. This is exactly what we are experiencing right now. Because who does everybody regard as the greatest player of all time? Michael Jordan in the NBA. Because you didn't believe that you could see better when you saw Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Same thing with Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Because Tom Brady is the Larry Bird or Magic Johnson. And you have Aaron Rodgers, who's the Michael Jordan. That's what it is. That's the truth. Because when you look at, and it's the same exact setup. You have guys who are 5 to 6 years older. Same thing with Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, older than Michael Jordan. Same thing with Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. So you're watching a guy pass a guy while the guy is still great. But you don't want to admit it because it doesn't feel good. You have to have foresight in this. Because my eyeballs tell me, the stats tell me that Aaron Rodgers has been greater than Tom Brady through his first 9 years in the league. Because remember, this is technically Aaron Rodgers' 13th year. But so he's had 10 full years. So he's only had 10 full years. 9 full years playing. This is his 10th year actually playing football because he played behind Brett Favre his first 3 years. And when you look at everything that this man has done, and I'm going to list all the reasons why, because you got to remember this, is that addition to the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson thing, right? And then Michael Jordan, they're all playing at the same time, but Jordan, you have to have the foresight to see that Jordan is better. Brett Favre, who people regard as one of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time, he just went in the Hall of Fame, and he's not the greatest Packers quarterback of all time. How crazy is that? That's how good this thing is. And I'm going to tell you this. You guys, thank you for watching. Please make sure you like the feed. Swipe over real quick. Share the feed so everybody can get in on this as well. Don't be the old person who's back in my day, and nobody can pass Michael Jordan. Yes, they can. That's what's happening to Tom Brady right now. He's the GOAT on Madden, but he's not really the GOAT. Aaron Rodgers, through his first 9 full seasons, thrown for 36,000 yards. That's 4,000 yards a season. And his interception rate, that is the percentage of times that his passes end up in interceptions, 1.5%. He has the highest quarterback rating in NFL history. And here's one of the key stats that just separates him from everybody else, is that he hasn't had more than 8 interceptions since 2010. And he's only had 2 in his entire career. 2 in his entire career, over 8 interceptions? That is insane. And he does something that only special people do. Only special people, only special quarterbacks do. He takes his team to the playoffs every single season, just like Tom Brady does. Every single season. Because the reality is there's only a couple quarterbacks who do that. There's only a couple quarterbacks. And it is like the Tom Brady's, Aaron Rodgers, Eli Manning, Joe Montana, Brett Favre. Like, these are the guys. Because some of the other guys you think are really good don't do that. The Eli Manning doesn't go to the playoffs very much. Matt Ryan doesn't go to the playoffs enough. Matt Stafford, nope. Flacco, nope. Cousins, nope. Carr, nope. Breeze, nope. That's what you got. And Aaron Rodgers hasn't missed the playoffs since 2008. I mean, how insane is that? And then he has not had any scandal, Deflategate, Spygate, like Tom Brady. No scandal at all. But you guys are going to sit up here and try to tell me that Aaron Rodgers is not greater than Tom Brady. You have to have foresight. You really have to have foresight in this. Because Tom Brady is in his 17th year. 14, he started 14 of them. He had 1 year hurt. That's 5 full more seasons than Rodgers. And I get that people are going to try to sell me on the argument, oh, this is about rings. Yeah, rings are important, right? But situations contribute to rings. And Tom Brady has had Bill Belichick. He's had Spygate. He's had other things that have assisted him and helped him along in winning these championships. Seriously, he has had that. Oh, and I'll get back to the Mike Pence thing. If you want to watch it from the beginning, because I talked about why the Mike Pence thing was a publicity stunt. So you have Tom Brady. He has not had the same type of success, because when you look at his first 7 years in the league, he didn't even have one season under 12 interceptions. Not one season under 12 interceptions. That's just the truth. His playoff record has been great. It's been immaculate. However, we are watching Michael Jordan while Magic Johnson and Larry Bird are playing. That's who Aaron Rodgers is. He's Michael Jordan. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson are Tom Brady. That doesn't take away from Tom Brady's greatness, but he just can't do what Aaron Rodgers can do. Best quarterback rating of all time. He commands the team and the game in a way that Tom Brady cannot. That's just the truth. He wins in the playoffs, no matter whether he doesn't have his receivers, doesn't have an O-line like he hasn't had a couple years when both tackles were hurt. Didn't have a running back last year, still went out and dominated. I mean, that's just who the dude is. And you have to recognize and be real and be honest about saying, you know what? I think this is right. I think this man is on to something. Have some foresight, people. Have some foresight, and you will see and agree that we're watching greatness in front of us. And you have to be willing to say and admit that he is, that we are watching somebody that's greater. Like, we have to be willing to admit that somebody can pass Jordan. Because if you don't want to admit that somebody can pass Jordan, you, my friend, are living in like a time warp. In a time warp. And you're the old person, the old fuddy-duddy. The last thing, though, today, before I go back and circle back to the Mike Pence thing, is the Dolphins assistant coach. I don't know if you guys have seen this video, but one of the Dolphins assistant coaches, their offensive line coach and run game coordinator, Chris Foerester. There is a video that surfaced of him. He is snorting some sort of white substance. He is talking crazy about, I don't know whether it's a stripper. It's allegedly a stripper. talking about he might have gotten her pregnant. She's going to keep the baby. All of this stuff, right? And you're just sitting there like, this doesn't, like, what the hell is this? Because it's kind of disturbing and creepy, right? He's snorting lines, and he says he's getting ready to go to a meeting. And that should bother you if you're an NFL fan. So I get that. I get that. Like that people are like, oh, it's not really a big, no, it's a huge deal. But there's a reason why he resigned this morning and it went away quietly. Because last night I was on the phone I was texting with one of my wife's friends and my wife, Angela. And she asked, had I seen the video? And I was like, yeah, but this is going to go away quietly. She said, her and my wife said, there's no way that this can go away quietly. And I was like, I guarantee you that this goes away quietly. They were like, how? I said, because the reason why it's going to go away quietly is because it is necessary for the league for it to go away quietly. You guys, please make sure you guys share the feed, like the feed, continue the conversation, swipe over. Okay, because cocaine, like we're going to have a very real conversation right now, is because cocaine is not looked upon and frowned down upon by people the same way heroin, meth, all these things are, because it's a party drug. Because there are a bunch of people that I know. I've never done coke myself, but there are a bunch of people I know that do coke once or twice a year when they're out in Vegas partying or they're doing something else. That's when they use coke. So, and it's like a rich man's drug, just a party drug. It doesn't seem that harmful unless you can't handle yourself and let it get away from you. And I know for a fact, that there are a bunch of people in the league office, bunch of people in front offices in the NFL. Because if he was let's just assume that he was using cocaine. There's a bunch of them that use cocaine on some level, like even occasionally. So why on earth would the league want this to come out? Because I would bet anything. Because he resigned, I bet you he walked away with the rest of his paychecks. Because other people in that building don't want him snitching. Because somebody else in that building knows he does coke. Or they've done coke with him. That's just the truth. They don't want it coming out to their wives, at the PTA meetings, at school, or any of that. They don't want him snitching. They don't want him snitching. They couldn't have him hanging around. And they couldn't publicly just fire him, because if they fired him and didn't give him a severance package or something on the way out, I'm talking about Dolphins coach Chris Foerester, who was on camera snorting some substance, and the video was on Facebook. He sent it to somebody, and then somebody posted it on Facebook. So I see the stupidity in what he did, but the league handled this in a way that what the league does. They wanted it to go away quietly because it could affect too many people. Because you don't think that it's a possibility that some of these owners, because we've seen Jerry Jones grabbing on women, doing all sorts of stuff, even though he's a married man and all this, whether he was drunk, whether he was high, whether he was something. So it's possible, right? It's possible that other owners, other front office people, other high-ups do this. It's not just possible. Some of them for sure do. And I know that for a fact. So, and this is a party drug, because it's not looked at the same way as coke is not looked at the same way as other drugs are. They're not. And that's why this had to go away quietly. And I told everybody, my wife and Angela, oh, no, this isn't going to go away quietly. They can't make it go away quietly. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But to circle back real quick about Mike Pence, if you didn't see the beginning of the video, please go back and watch it. I talked about why this Mike Pence going to the Indianapolis game was such a PR stunt, and why if you are a Second Amendment person, this matters to you. Mike Pence went to the Indianapolis Colts games against the 49ers. He knew that the 49ers players take a knee. Knew it. So what did he do? Donald Trump got in the propaganda machine, said we're going to spin one out. Because he called for people to be walking out of stadiums, and nobody's been walking out of stadiums. So what do? You try to influence the public, influence the masses with propaganda. Because Mike Pence was in Las Vegas, scheduled to be on Saturday, scheduled to be in Los Angeles for a fundraiser on Sunday afternoon / evening. But he shows up in Indianapolis at a game to fly back to LA. Air Force Two is not a magic plane. It can't fly any faster than any other plane that has its capabilities. So he's not getting back to LA in an hour and a half. So he had no intentions on sitting for the game, on sitting and watching the game. He didn't. So what did he do? Flew back to LA because, mind you, I drove through the traffic of him getting ready to leave the fundraiser. I drove through it. So I know where the man was. And I just thought it ironic. I was like, there were games in LA if he wanted to attend a game. I know he's from Indianapolis. I know he's from Indiana. But there was games in LA. There was a game in Oakland. But he used my taxpayer dollars to go back to Indianapolis, to go walk out. Come on, man. Even if you're a supporter, you have to see what this is. You have to see that that's propaganda. And if you, my friend, are against players taking a knee and having jobs and that they should be forced to stand and all this, which infringes upon their First Amendment rights, if you are that person and you love your guns and you don't want the government taking away your guns, you should be supporting, my friend, because your guns are next. I'm telling you, your Second Amendment rights are going to be infringed upon. Because if you think that people are going to A, stand for, or B, that there's an actual line, then guess what? You will understand and realize that there is not a line. Because there's not a line to people's sensitivities. Because when people get shot like they did in Las Vegas, doesn't matter where you are. You had country music people who are largely gun people coming out talking about gun control. So you had that, right? So when you have that, guess what? Your lines are being come across. Because remember this too, is that things don't start with things can look like they're starting in one issue, in one lane, and if you don't think they're going to blur into other ones, oh, no. Guess what? They are. That's just the history of things. Like if you think that infringing upon people's First Amendment rights and forcing them to flag worship, and not just flag worship, but just flag worship and confusing that with patriotism. Because everybody loves the military. Everybody loves this. Because I understand that you don't care about or you don't believe that there's equality issues. You think that people are snowflakes. You think all this, right? But if you don't think that your next, that the next step or soon to be, you think that the NRA is powerful enough to keep them from taking your guns away or restricting your guns, guess what? You are wrong. This is why you should support it. Mind you, I'm a Second Amendment person, but I believe in gun restriction on some level. And I'm telling you this, they're coming for that. They'll come for anything. The mob will come. So you can't avoid it. Last thing today, though, is Unafraid, new mail system. We have an email now for Unafraid. And it's an anonymous email. I'll be addressing all the emails on Wednesday. The address is unafraidshow@gmail.com. Literally how it's spelled. Unafraidshow@gmail.com. So please send in your emails. They will be anonymous. Ask your questions. Whatever they are, I will be hitting them up. Oh, so Callie Jacks, send me an email at unafraidshow gmail.com, and I will address those things. It can be as outrageous, doesn't have to be about sports, doesn't have to be about anything. You can hit it up. And no, you can't say anything at work that you want and call it First Amendment. However, you must admit that at some point in time, these things can possibly infringe upon you. The last thing, though, is Jerry Jones. He's actually done something that I was very surprised about. So he has come out and publicly said that his players, they better not do anything to disrespect the flag or anything disrespect our country, otherwise they will be benched, will be fired, anything like that. Okay, so everybody is not signing Kaepernick because he's a quote-unquote distraction. But mind you, distractions are only things that losers say that aren't focused on what they do. So they're talking about distractions, right? But is there no more of a distraction than what Jerry Jones just did? Because Dak and Ezekiel Elliott and Jason Witten and Dez Bryant are going to have to answer questions all year about this protest. That sounds like something that's causing unnecessary ruckus to me, buddy. So, it's a lot of pot calling the kettle black around here. Guys, make sure you hit up the email. Please make sure you like the feed, share the feed, continue the conversation. And most importantly, whether you're watching on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, please make sure that you follow it so you get alerts when we're coming on. All right, appreciate it, guys. I will catch you tomorrow.